Congratulations. You've decided to uproot your entire life and march westward into the screaming void of manifest destiny. It's the 1840s and you've just agreed to walk 2,000 miles across hostile terrain, disease-ridden rivers, and very judgmental prairie dogs, all because someone in a newspaper said there was free land out there if you were brave, stupid, or desperate enough to reach it. You're not alone. Dozens of other wagons roll along with you, all filled with hopeful faces and unexamined trauma. Your neighbours are a baker from St. Louis, a widow with 6 kids and 1 goat, and a man who says he's a dentist but keeps sharpening knives when he thinks no one's looking. The starting point is Missouri. The ending point is theoretical. Some place called Oregon, which, according to rumour, is full of fertile farmland, mild weather, and rivers that sparkle with possibility. You wouldn't know. You've never been more than 40 miles from your birthbed. Your world is about to get uncomfortably bigger. Your boots are new. They won't stay that way. By week 2, they'll be stiff with mud, blood and things you'll refuse to identify. You'll stuff them with grass, rags and prayer, but nothing stops the blisters, or the smell, or the vague sense that your feet are planning a quiet rebellion. Your wagon is a miracle of engineering, which is to say, it barely works, and every bump sounds like a dying violin. It's overloaded, underbuilt, and will soon be held together by twine and regret. You named it Hope. That name won't age well. You brought your whole life with you, all packed into 6 square feet of rattling storage space. A few barrels of flour, some salted pork, your mother-in-law's heirloom spinning wheel. Because when you're on the brink of starvation, what you really need is heirloom gilt furniture. The weather starts off pleasant. Birds chirp, grass waves. You feel like you're in a landscape painting. That illusion dies the first time you see someone digging a grave next to the trail. Spoiler, there will be many more. It's less a journey and more a rolling funeral with snack breaks. You thought the journey would bring your family closer. It does, uncomfortably close. You now sleep 5 to a wagon, eat out of the same pot, and argue over everything from oxen pace to the smell of Cousin Jed's socks. The family bond has become a legally binding curse. Food is rationed. You eat beans, you eat more beans, then you pretend you're fine with eating beans again. Eventually, someone says beans, and you throw a spoon at them. It doesn't matter. There are only beans. You start to romanticize the idea of Oregon. In your mind, it becomes this utopia. Fresh fruit, cool water, beds with legs. But every mile makes that dream more absurd. You've barely left Missouri, and already your wagon wheel is cracked, your ox is limping, and your bladder is an untrustworthy passenger. You're exhausted, not in a poetic way, in a my teeth hurt from chewing this jerky way. You fall asleep to the sound of creaking wood and someone coughing blood 2 wagons over. You dream of home. You wake up with a spider in your mouth. The trail is not empty. You pass discarded furniture, abandoned wagons, the occasional skeleton. Each item tells a story. This piano belonged to someone optimistic. This barrel once held dreams. This skull was probably named Gary. Someone dies on day 12. You didn't know her well. You cry anyway. Not for her, but because it reminds you how fragile you are. The ground doesn't even wait to cool before someone starts digging. Life moves on. But not you. You limp forward. And so it begins. You've chosen the trail. It doesn't care, it's long, it's cruel. It's filled with sharp objects, heavier boots, and people whose optimism hasn't died yet, but give it a week. You are now a westward soul on the trail of regret. Let's talk about the why. Why are you doing this? Why abandon a creaky but stable life in the East for dysentery and existential despair? The answer, conveniently packaged in patriotic fervour, is manifest destiny. The government says it's your divine duty to head west, that the land is yours, already yours, as long as you show up with a flag, a Bible, and a willingness to pretend no one already lives there. It's not colonization, it's expansion. totally different branding. You're told you'll find farmland, rivers, freedom, a chance to build something. In truth, you'll mostly build calluses and small graves, but the pamphlets are convincing. You've got maps. They are wildly inaccurate, but charmingly illustrated. Politicians and newspapers hype the dream. Westward ho, land for all. Just ignore the part where most of it is already inhabited by people who'd rather you not be there. It's not a land rush, it's a land awkwardly taken with paperwork and bullets. You believe in the dream, sort of. You also believe you're broke, and that your current town smells like goats and disappointment. Maybe out west, the goats will be friendlier. Maybe the disappointment will taste like pine trees. Your fellow travellers believe too. Some want adventure, some want land. Some are running from debt, disgrace, or suspiciously timed fires back home. The Oregon Trail is less a national movement and more a really slow witness protection program. Everyone talks about freedom, but on the trail, freedom means dying where you choose. You want to rest? Too bad. The oxen keep moving. You want to complain? Great, take a number. You want privacy? That's hilarious. Your government encourages the journey. It does not provide food, or medicine, or useful directions. It does, however, offer moral support and vague promises about treaties that will almost certainly be broken. You learn quickly that manifest destiny is less a philosophy and more a dare. Go west, it whispers, if you're brave, or foolish, or both. It doesn't mention the broken axles, the snake bites, the rivers that eat wagons like popcorn. There are songs, anthems of westward glory. You sing them once, then someone breaks a leg and you never sing again. You hum quietly, sometimes, to drown out the creaking. It doesn't help. Indigenous people are everywhere, but you're told not to worry, the land is unsettled. A bold claim, given the visible settlements. But to the US government, anyone without a deed and a top hat doesn't count. You're also promised community, that the trail will bond you. It does, like trauma bonds people in lifeboats. You'll make friends, you'll also watch those friends die of cholera, and then you'll eat their leftover flour. It's a mixed experience. Every sunrise, you remember why you started this journey. Every sunset, you forget. Every night, you wonder if the land out west will truly welcome you, or just swallow you like so many before. By the time you reach Kansas, you've stopped caring about manifest destiny. You just want to survive. You want to drink water that doesn't smell like rust. You want your kid to stop asking if the ox is asleep. You want the trail to stop winning. You were told to pack smart. You did not. No one does. You packed like this was a family vacation, not a death march. There's a butter churn, 4 quilts, and your cousin's wedding china. There's no quinine or extra socks. The recommended packing list was simple. Flour, beans, bacon, salt, tools, weapons, medicine, blankets, water barrels. You read it, then immediately ignored half of it in favour of a second rocking chair, and 3 novels you will never read. You brought a piano, a literal piano. It's tied to the back of the wagon like a musical anchor. You haven't played it since St. Joseph, and by week 2 the keys are rattling like bones. You keep it out of guilt. It's heavy. So is regret. There are 2 barrels of pickles. 1 cracks open by day 10. The smell lingers for a week. You try to convince yourself it's adding flavour to the wagon. It's not. It's adding arguments and dreams of lighter luggage. You have 5 sets of clothes. You wear 2. The others are for special occasions, like funerals or the arrival of judgmental strangers. By month 1, every fabric is either ripped, soaked, or covered in something you don't want to examine closely. You forgot medicine, or rather, you brought the wrong medicine. There's a jar of something labelled soothing balm that turns out to be pig grease with lavender. You apply it to a rash. The rash gets angrier. You give up. You packed books, which was adorable. You imagined evenings around the fire, reading poetry under the stars. Instead, Your evenings are spent vomiting or burying someone. The books become fuel. You don't feel bad. You brought a mirror. That was a mistake. It shows you your own sunburned, swollen face and reminds you what optimism used to look like. You shove it under a blanket and pretend you never owned one. You forgot spare wagon parts, which means when the axle breaks, you fix it with prayer, spit, and a stolen fence post. Your wagon now lists slightly to the left and sounds like it's crying. You name it despair. You brought a rifle but no bullets. You brought a skillet but no oil. You brought a comb but no one with energy left to care about hair. Your packing job is a tragic poem written in broken straps and ruined hopes. Every unnecessary item becomes an enemy. Every extra pound slows the oxen, drags your wheels, and makes you curse past you for thinking lace curtains would brighten the wagon. Spoiler, they don't. By week 4, you start throwing things out. A trunk, a chair, a porcelain doll that now terrifies you in ways you can't explain. Each discarded item feels like shedding skin, painful but necessary. Lighter is safer. Safer is rare. You envy those who packed light. Until they ask to borrow your skillet, or your extra socks, or the pickles. Then you feel smug, briefly, until you remember you also brought a ceramic rooster statue because it felt lucky. The best packed wagons don't look special. They look grim. Barrels, bags, ropes, no decoration, no charm. Just survival in physical form. You stare at them like a hungry dog outside a bakery. They stare back with pity. Packing, it turns out, was your first failure. The trail is long, your wagon is full, and your priorities, like that ceramic rooster, are about to be shattered. Congratulations, you're not alone. You've joined a caravan of strangers, misfits, and people who think God wants them to die in a wheat field. Your travel companions are a curated sample of 19th century optimism, desperation, and poor planning skills. You'll get to know them intimately, mostly because there's nowhere to hide. First, meet the patriarch, Jedediah, a farmer from Ohio with $14, 6 children, and a vague notion that Oregon has the good dirt. He's the kind of man who's never seen a mountain, but is convinced he can cross one. His leadership style is firm, enthusiastic, and almost entirely wrong. Next, there's Martha, his wife. She didn't want to come. She made that clear, repeatedly. But here she is in a bonnet, feeding dried beans to a baby who's already got a cough. Martha is made of spite and cornbread. She'll outlive you all. Their children range from barely walking to already stealing food from the next wagon. You'll hear them cry, fight, and sing off-key songs until you long for the sweet silence of dysentery. One of them will try to pet a rattlesnake. You'll have to stop them. You'll fail. Then there's your cousin Alvin. He brought a harmonica, 3 shirts, and tuberculosis. Alvin is a man of many talents, none of which are useful on a trail. He believes in fresh air, hot tea, and not mentioning his symptoms. You'll bury Alvin by mile 400. A few wagons over is the McConnell family, who are travelling with a goat, not for milk, for companionship. The goat hates you. It will stare into your soul. It will try to eat your boots. You will grow to fear it. There's also a preacher. He doesn't have a church, but he has opinions, loud ones, about sin, salvation, and how women should churn butter more humbly. You'll consider pushing him into a river. So will everyone else. In your group are 3 single men who joined last minute. One is clearly running from something. The other 2 won't stop talking about California. None of them packed enough food. They'll beg for your hardtack within days. You also have an old trapper. He smells like wet dog and claims to have seen things. No one knows his name. He calls everyone boy and sharpens knives for fun. You'll feel safer when he's asleep, which isn't often. And finally, there's you. Tired, hungry, already regretting everything. You're not built for this. None of you are. But you're here, bonded by bad timing and worse maps, lurching westward, toward an imaginary future. The group starts with high hopes and shared meals, laughter, songs by the fire. But as the miles stretch on, things change. People hoard food, arguments erupt, someone loses a wagon wheel, and everyone pretends not to notice. Soon you notice silence replacing conversation. Faces grow pale, tempers flare. You stop asking how far you've gone. You start asking how many more you can lose before the wagon feels too light. You came here thinking it would be an adventure, a journey, a new beginning. But it's not that. It's a gauntlet. One you'll walk with strangers who become family, enemies, ghosts. And by the time you reach the mountains, if you reach the mountains, you'll understand the truth. No one survives the trail unchanged. And not everyone survives it at all. Ah, the covered wagon, icon of the frontier, symbol of freedom, movement, and hope. Also, your new mobile prison. Spoiler alert, it's not a comfortable ride. It's not even a tolerable ride. It's a wooden box on wheels dragged by livestock with gastrointestinal issues. Let's talk construction. Your wagon is made of wood, iron, prayer, and splinters. It has no suspension. None. Every bump, rock, and gopher hole is delivered straight to your spine, like a divine punishment. You'll feel every mile in your kidneys. The wheels are wood, bound with iron. They warp in rain. They squeak like dying mice. They break at the worst possible time. Replacing a wheel takes hours. You'll get good at it. You'll hate that you get good at it. The canvas top? It's not waterproof, it's barely dustproof. Rain seeps in. Sun cooks it. Wind tears it. At night it flaps like a dying bird. During storms it sounds like someone is playing the world's worst drum solo above your head. Inside the wagon, chaos. Supplies jostle, crates slide, pots bang. People scream. You can't sit upright without knocking your head on the beams. You can't lie down without spooning a sack of flour. The floor is a blend of wood, dirt, and spilled lard. You brought too much stuff. Everyone does. Furniture, books, grandfather clocks, pianos. You'll throw it all out by week 2. But for now, it's your obstacle course. Congratulations. Your new home is a wooden coffin with bonus rattlesnakes. No one rides in the wagon for long. It's too bumpy, too noisy, and too likely to tip over and kill everyone inside. So you walk beside it for hundreds of miles in boots not designed for walking, across rocks, mud, sand, and horse poop. Your oxen hate you. They are large, slow, and temperamental. They stop for no reason. They collapse without warning. You'll learn more about animal flatulence than you ever wanted. Your respect for these creatures will grow, then die, then return in the form of silent pleading. The brakes? There are no brakes. You stop the wagon by yelling and pulling and praying. Going downhill is a nightmare. Going uphill is worse. You will dream of flat land. You will never find it. Steering? Also a joke. The wagon goes where the oxen go, which is not always the trail. Sometimes it's the river. Sometimes it's the side of a cliff. You'll try to guide them. You'll fail. They know you're a fraud. The constant motion wears on you. Your body aches. Your feet blister. Your hands develop calluses you didn't think were possible. Every day you think, surely it can't get worse. And then a wheel breaks. Again. You begin to bond with the wagon. You give it a name. You curse it. You apologize when you kick it. It's your captor and your companion. When it groans, you groan back. And don't forget what's underneath. Dust. So much dust. Fine, choking, endless dust. It gets into everything. Your clothes, your lungs, your soul. You will never be clean again. So yes, the wagon is iconic. It's also awful. It's not a chariot. It's not a home. It's a wooden trauma machine, dragging you across a continent, one agonizing jolt at a time. And you'll miss it when it breaks down for the final time. And you have to carry your remaining possessions on your back. Day 1, you're excited. Day 2, you smell yourself. It's a special kind of stink. A blend of sweat, ox grease, unwashed socks, and hopeless ambition. You left civilization, and now civilization is leaving you, one unpleasant bodily function at a time. You remember beds, you remember chairs, you remember bathing without needing a guard goat. Now you sleep on the ground, eat with your hands, and spend a lot of time wondering if that puddle is water or regret. Bathrooms? Oh, sweet summer child. There are no bathrooms. You dig a hole. You go in the hole. You bury the hole. And if you don't, someone will step in it. And then the screaming begins. Toilet paper doesn't exist. You use leaves, or grass, or nothing. You become an expert in least painful, natural wiping materials. It's a horrifying science. Sometimes you use your own shirt. Sometimes someone else's. You walk all day, in all weather. Rain makes mud. Mud eats shoes. Sun brings heat stroke. Wind brings dust. Snow brings despair. You quickly learn that nature has no favourite child, but it especially hates you. You eat the same things every day. Beans, bacon, more beans. If you're lucky, hardtack. A cracker that breaks teeth and spirits. You miss flavour. You miss variety. You miss food that doesn't scream in your intestines. And then there's water. It runs out. It gets contaminated. You drink from creeks shared with livestock and corpses. Diarrhea becomes a personality trait. Dysentery is your new life coach. You name your bucket. You cry into it. You try bathing once in a river. The water's freezing. A fish touches your leg. You never bathe again. Dirt becomes a second skin. Soap, if you had any, is long gone. Clean is a memory, a fantasy, a cruel joke from a past life. Your body changes. You lose weight. You lose hair. You gain smells. Your feet look like they've been through a medieval war. Your nails fall off. Your joints ache. You start referring to your blisters as individual people. You stop caring how you look. You care only about walking and food and not dying. Vanity goes out the window, assuming your wagon had a window. You smell like something the forest rejected. Sleep is rare. It rains, it's cold. Someone snores like a dying buffalo. The goat won't shut up. A child coughs all night. And when you do fall asleep, it's on rocks, with bugs, and regret. So much regret. Social niceties disappear. You fart loudly. You burp competitively. You fight over beans. You judge people based on how efficiently they dig latrines. Civilization unravels like a poorly tied ox harness. And still you walk, day after day, step after step, hoping the next hill will be the last. Spoiler, it won't be. This is your life now. Endless walking, endless stench, and the faint, ever-present hope that maybe, just maybe, the next creek won't be full of cholera. Congratulations, you've reached your first river crossing. It's wide, cold, and angry, much like you'll be after you realise you're about to stake your life on a floating box of food and rope. You stare across the water. It looks deceptively peaceful. That's a lie, it wants to eat your oxen. There are 3 options, none of them good. You can ford it, which means driving your wagon straight through the water and hoping it's shallow enough that you don't drown. This is the boldest choice, also the stupidest, but sure, live your truth. Option 2, float it. Turn your wagon into a makeshift raft, lash everything down, and drift across like an overconfident beaver. Of course, wagons are about as buoyant as a bucket of bricks, but details. The third option, wait. For what exactly? For the water to recede. For someone to build a ferry. For divine intervention. This is the stall and pray method, and it works about as often as you'd think. But at least you're dry. Most people choose ford. Why? Because floating requires tools, skills, and a healthy relationship with probability. Fording only requires denial, a shallow grave, and a family that knows how to scream in unison. Let's talk about depth. You're told anything under 2 feet is safe. That's a funny word. Safe on the trail means less likely to be completely fatal. You measure the river with a stick. It sinks. You pretend that's fine. You unyoke the oxen. You lead them in. They're smarter than you, and immediately hesitate. You slap their sides and hope for the best. Your wagon lurches forward. The water hits the wheels. The current is stronger than you thought. Halfway through, the back of the wagon tips. You feel it, that stomach drop lurch that means your entire life is now bobbing downstream. You grab the reins. You yell. You think about crying but save it for later. Your flour is soaked. Your blankets float away. Your cousin falls in. You manage to pull him out, coughing up river sludge and blaming you for everything. Fair. You also lost the butter churn. But honestly, that might be a mercy. If you survive the crossing, congratulations. You're wet, exhausted, and now everything smells like mildew. And not fun campfire mildew. Wagon rot mildew. A scent that never quite leaves your nostrils. You attempt to dry your belongings, but the sun is taking a personal day. You lay things out, pretend this helps, and eat soggy bread with shaking hands. Everyone is silently furious at everyone else. If you float instead, it's a different flavour of disaster. The wheels leak, the wagon lists, your dog panics and jumps overboard. Half your beans disappear beneath the surface, and when you do reach the other side, your axles are warped and your pride is in shambles. Every river is a gamble, and there are a lot of rivers. Each one is a new spin of the trail roulette wheel, and the house always wins eventually. You start rating rivers based on trauma. Better than the Platte, worse than the Snake. The worst part? No one warns you. There's no sign that says, "Welcome to certain doom." Just a glinting surface and a handful of sad tracks disappearing into the muck. You follow them anyway, because turning back isn't an option. Not now. Not with half your bacon floating in the Columbia and your boots full of river. So you press on, dripping, cursing, and dreading the next blue squiggle on the map. By now, your boots are ruined, your nerves are frayed, and your entire digestive tract has decided to launch a rebellion. Welcome to the real villain of the Oregon Trail, disease. Not the dramatic kind, no. This is the slow, humiliating kind that makes you cautionary tale. Let's start with dysentery, the celebrity of trail diseases. If you're lucky, it begins with mild cramps. If you're not, it begins with a sudden sprint to the nearest shrub and ends with you digging your own grave mid-diarrhea. It's not glamorous, but it is frequent. Next up, cholera. Similar to dysentery, but more enthusiastic. Cholera doesn't nibble, it lunges. You'll go from fine to skeleton cosplay in a matter of hours. It dehydrates you faster than a campfire confession and leaves you twitching in the dirt. The cause? Water. That innocent-looking spring your ox drank from? Tainted. The stream that seems so clear? Spoiler, not clear. You've been sipping a bacterial cocktail garnished with raccoon disappointment. Hand washing? Adorable. Soap is for rich people and fantasy novels. You might rinse your hands in the same puddle the ox peed in. It's fine. Builds character. And possibly intestinal parasites. Food hygiene? Equally non-existent. You eat with your fingers, your knife, and the same napkin you used to clean your boots. Leftovers sit in the sun. Salt pork oozes. Bread moulds. Everything smells faintly of despair and slightly of death. Scurvy joins the party eventually. No fruits, no vegetables, just meat, flour, and denial. Your gums swell, your teeth loosen. You wake up tasting metal and questioning your life choices. Again, if you're truly unlucky, you get typhoid, fevers, delirium, a rash that makes your skin look like it's trying to leave you. One day, you're mumbling to your wagon wheel. The next, you're being buried with it. Medicine? Laughable. You've got laudanum, alcohol and opium, calomel, mercury, and turpentine. If those don't work, someone suggests whiskey and positive thinking. You try all three. None help. Doctors? There are a few, travelling quacks with wagons full of jars and charisma. They'll bleed you, blister you, and recommend you walk it off. Their survival rate is slightly lower than chance. Meanwhile, the healthy people watch you, from a distance, with suspicion. No one wants to get too close. You're a biohazard wrapped in flannel. You cough once and someone moves camp 3 miles west. Rest? Impossible. You're either jostling in a wagon or collapsing in damp grass. Sleep comes in bursts. Lucid moments are rare. Most of your memories from this period involve moaning into a boot for comfort. Eventually the fever breaks, or it doesn't. Either you wake up starving or you don't wake up at all. Your body is carried off and buried near a trail marker. A boot is placed on the grave. No one remembers who it belonged to. The worst part, you're not alone. Everyone has something. A cough, a rash, a suspicious limp. Illness is just another member of the wagon party, one that doesn't help pull the load, but still demands half the rations. By the time you hit the halfway point, you've had dysentery twice, cholera once, and a brief spiritual encounter with a very annoyed badger. And still, somehow, you keep going. Because what's the alternative? Staying in the east? Pfft, you're committed, and constipated, and possibly contagious, but you're going west, damn it. If the trail doesn't kill you, pride might. Let's talk about food, or what passes for food when you're 800 miles into the American wilderness, and the closest grocery store is a month behind you. Your meals on the trail are less culinary experience and more desperate caloric arithmetic. You begin with good intentions. Barrels of flour, bags of beans, a chunk of salted pork the size of your optimism, maybe some dried apples if you were feeling fancy. All of it packed lovingly into crates that now rattle ominously every time the wagon hits a bump, which is constantly. Hardtack is the star of the show. Imagine a cracker, but one designed by a vengeful god. It's flour and water baked until it achieves the texture of drywall. You don't bite it so much as negotiate with it. Some people soak it in coffee, others just gnaw until their teeth surrender. Speaking of coffee, if you brought any, it's already gone. Replaced with a bitter brew made from toasted grain or desperation. You pretend it's coffee because pretending is cheaper than crying. Besides, if you squint and don't breathe, it's almost tolerable. Salt pork, the trail's other delicacy, is a gelatinous slab of regret stored in a wooden barrel of brine. It smells like wet rope and tastes like a dare. You eat it anyway, because protein, and also because the alternative is fainting face first into a bush. There's no refrigeration, obviously, which means everything either keeps indefinitely or spoils spectacularly. By week 3, your wagon has a subtle funk. By week 6, it's a mobile fermentation chamber. Mold is now a condiment. Fresh food is a luxury. If you're lucky, you spot a rabbit. If you're skilled, you shoot it. If you're truly blessed, you cook it without lighting your wagon on fire. Otherwise, it's back to beans. Again, and again, and again. Portions shrink. You swear the flour barrel is leaking, but no, you're just running out. Meals become smaller, sadder. A spoonful of something hot counts as a feast. You start having dreams about butter, not using it, just seeing it. Foraging is possible, if you know which berries won't kill you. Spoiler, you don't. So you ask the old guy in the group who claims he's part Cherokee. He isn't. You spend the next day vomiting anyway. Hunting becomes a fantasy. You brought a rifle. You did not bring aim. You waste 3 bullets trying to hit a squirrel, and now you're down a meal and 3 bullets. The squirrel is still laughing in the distance. Cooking is a nightmare. Wind, dust, and swarms of insects eager to investigate your pot. Fires take forever to start, burn too hot, or go out entirely. Everything is undercooked or overboiled. Texture is a rumour. Dishes, a stick and a splash of stream water. Hygiene is a dream you had back in Illinois. You wipe your hands on your pants. Your pants are already covered in bacon grease, blood and fear. It doesn't matter. Sometimes you don't eat at all. Storms, wagon delays, or a we thought we had more situation leaves you chewing on the corners of hope. Your stomach growls. You growl back. This is fine. Eventually, you consider eating something unconventional. Shoe leather, bark, a candle. You joke about it. Then you stop joking. Hunger does that. It turns punchlines into dinner plans. You keep moving, keep chewing, keep regretting that piano you packed instead of another sack of beans. You dream of pie. You wake up to hardtack. Again. It's bedtime on the trail. That phrase is misleading. There are no beds, just the ground. Uncompromising, uninviting, and always slightly damp in ways you can't explain. Welcome to the worst sleep of your life. Your options are simple. Sleep in the wagon or sleep outside. The wagon is a wooden coffin with wheels, packed with flour, crying children, and possibly a goat. It smells like feet and despair. But hey, at least you're dry. Outside, you're at the mercy of nature. And nature is mean. Wind, rain, mosquitoes the size of ambition, and occasional visits from creatures that want your food, or your warmth, or your soul. There's no mattress, just your blanket, now stiff with trail dust and the occasional mystery stain. You lay it on packed dirt and call it good. You try not to think about the things crawling underneath. Pillows? You bunch up your coat, or your shirt, or whatever hasn't been chewed on by mice. Neck support is a luxury. You wake up with a crick that feels biblical. If your spine wasn't misaligned before, it is now. Noise is constant. Wagons creak. People snore. Someone's baby wails at full volume until dawn. You try to muffle your ears with a sock. It doesn't help. Silence is a myth. Sleep is a negotiation. Temperature is another problem. Days are blazing, nights are freezing. You sweat through your shirt at sunset and wake up with frost in your beard. Every night is a battle between overheating and hypothermia. Bugs? Yes, all of them. Fleas, flies, spiders, ants. A beetle in your ear. A centipede on your leg. You slap, swat, and occasionally scream. Eventually, you stop caring. The bugs win. You don't change clothes. Why bother? You sleep in what you wore all day, because your one spare outfit is being saved for civilized moments. You haven't had one of those since April. You share space. That means farts, coughs, shifting limbs, and someone stealing your only blanket. You consider murder. You settle for passive-aggressive sighing. Rain turns your camp into soup. Mud in your boots, mud in your hair, mud in your dreams. You dig trenches around your bedroll like a tiny, sad castle. They don't help. Every rock finds your hip. Every root targets your spine. You twist and turn until exhaustion beats discomfort. You wake up sore, damp, and with a slug somehow inside your sleeve. Dreams are weird, half fever, half memory. You dream of featherbeds. You wake up clinging to a log. Once you mistake a possum for a pillow. It ends badly, for both of you. And yet you do sleep, eventually, not well, not deeply, but enough to keep walking the next day, because you have to, because you're not dead yet, but you're definitely tired. Very, very tired. There is no such thing as nice weather on the Oregon Trail. There's just weather that hasn't tried to kill you yet. You wake up freezing, spend the afternoon boiling, and go to sleep in a thunderstorm so aggressive it feels personal. Rain? It doesn't fall, it assaults, a sideways deluge that turns dirt roads into grease slides and wagon wheels into expensive anchors. Your socks will never be dry again. Your underthings rot on the line. Your soul mildews. Dust storms, on the other hand, are the opposite. Dry, relentless. The wind flings grit into every crevice of your anatomy and your dinner. You eat dust, you breathe dust. You are now mostly dust. Hope you weren't emotionally attached to your eyelashes. And snow, sweet, merciful snow, waits until the exact wrong moment. Like halfway up a mountain pass. Suddenly the landscape is white, your oxen are shivering, and you're carving emergency snowshoes out of fence rails. And prayer. It's not just temperature, it's mood whiplash. The sky changes more often than a nervous liar. 1 hour it's calm and sunny. The next, your wagon cover is airborne, and you're chasing it through a field while screaming words not found in any Sunday sermon. Lightning strikes just close enough to remind you that nature has opinions. Thunder hits with a bassline you feel in your bones. Children cry. Adults pretend they're not. Even the goat looks concerned. And goats don't care about anything. Heat is the slow killer. Days stretch like drying leather. The trail becomes a convection oven. Water skins go warm. Salt crusts your face. You lie down for a nap and wake up half-cooked. Flies hum over you like they've made dinner reservations. Cold is sharper. It doesn't kill quickly. It negotiates. Frost bites at your fingers. Wind laughs in your ears. You curl up near a fire that smokes more than it warms and wonder if your toes will still be attached in the morning. Storms collapse wagons, drown oxen and erase trails. 1 minute you're following a clear rutted road. The next you're guessing directions based on the way trees look slightly ashamed of themselves. You try to predict the weather. You listen to the old man in your party who says things like, "Feel it in my bones. His bones are wrong. His bones get everyone soaked. Stop trusting bones. There's no weather report, no warnings, no Doppler radar, just clouds that roll in like the opening act to an execution, and wind that rearranges your hairstyle with spite. Sometimes you outrun it. Usually you don't. Sometimes you huddle under the wagon. Sometimes you dig a trench and hope lightning prefers taller targets. Every storm is a gamble, and you are the chips. Even calm days are suspicious. Blue skies just mean the sun will get a running start before it punishes you. Windless afternoons mean the mosquitoes are organising something. By the end of the journey, assuming there is one, you won't remember what a normal sky looks like. Just an endless loop of too hot, too wet, too cold, and too ominously quiet. You set out chasing sunlight and end up haunted by it. Congratulations, you've survived another day of the trail's emotional weather roller coaster. Just wait till tomorrow. The Oregon Trail doesn't just kill you with grand disasters. No, it prefers smaller, pettier deaths. Deaths you can't even brag about in the afterlife. Welcome to the section where gravity, carelessness, and wagon wheels team up against you. First, let's talk falling. You fall off the wagon a lot. There's no suspension, no seat belts, just wooden benches that splinter at the worst possible moments. One jolt and you're face first in a prairie puddle. Children fall off too. Babies bounce, except they don't. They scream. Then silence, then burial. Accidental deaths are so common, they stop feeling tragic. They become routine. You trip over everything. Roots, rocks, invisible godspite. You twist ankles, sprain knees, and dislocate shoulders just trying to pee behind a bush. Injuries are inevitable. Recovery is optional. Fires happen. Campfires tip. Wagons burn. You knock over a lantern, and next thing you know, your supplies are ash and your pants are smouldering. There are no fire brigades, only yelling. Guns misfire. Axes slip. Ropes snap. Every tool is secretly a murder weapon. Every chore, a potential obituary. You came here to farm, not to be impaled by a hoe with abandonment issues. Wagon wheels break. Axles crack. You're constantly fixing something with hope and spit. One bad bump and your cart does a dramatic impersonation of modern art. The trail doesn't care that you're not a blacksmith. Oxen step on you, or kick you, or lie down and die directly on your foot. There's no graceful way to move 2,000 pounds of angry beef. Sometimes you just accept your new life as a foot pancake. You get bitten. By snakes, by spiders, by mystery bugs that buzz like demons and bite like vengeance. There's no anti-venom. Just old wives' tales and a very nervous cousin with a pocket knife. You drown in rivers, in flash floods, in unexpectedly deep puddles that mock your sense of scale. You thought you could cross. You were wrong. The current takes your hat, your dignity, and your best ox. Crush injuries are their own genre. You slip under the wagon during loading, or it tips while you're inside. Bones snap like kindling. There are no casts, just splints and silent screaming. Even routine tasks go feral. Fetching water, snake in the bucket, gathering firewood, branch to the face, digging latrines, cave in. Every daily activity is a chance to end up as a cautionary tale. The worst part? No one is surprised. Accidents are normal, expected. You bury your friend and then finish your stew, because the sun's still setting and the trail won't walk itself. In the end, most people don't die of disease or bandits. They die of dumb things, small things. The trail chips away at you until one unlucky step becomes your final one. So watch your footing, sleep lightly, and maybe, just maybe, tie yourself to the wagon. Because gravity has no mercy, and the prairie is always hungry. Your oxen are dying, not dramatically, not with a bang, just slowly, stubbornly, like everything else on this cursed trail. You started with 4. 1 stepped on a nail, 1 fell in a river, 1 looked sad for 3 days and then collapsed. Now you're down to 1, and it limps like it owes taxes. These aren't glamorous animals. They're not noble steeds. They're meat machines with hooves, and your entire survival depends on them trudging forward at 2 miles per hour, while slowly disintegrating in the heat. You'll try everything to keep them alive. Whisper sweet nothings, feed them scraps, pray, name them after family members for emotional leverage. It won't work. They die anyway. Oxen are strong, but the trail is stronger. And then there are the snakes. They live in the grass, in the sand, in your boots if you leave them unattended. Most aren't poisonous, but who's identifying reptiles while half blind from scurvy and heat stroke? Every rustle is a potential eulogy. If you do get bit, there's no anti-venom. Just someone offering whiskey and telling you to suck the poison out, while very clearly not volunteering to do it. Your leg swells. You cry, you move on, limping. Next up, raccoons. These fuzzy little nightmares aren't cute here. They're thieves with thumbs. They'll steal your jerky, your buttons, your socks. They've been known to drag entire loaves of bread into the woods, like furry pirates with a gluten obsession. Don't forget the wolves. They watch from a distance, always, glowing eyes in the brush. You tell yourself they're scared of you. That's cute. They're not. They're just waiting for the ox to finish dying so dinner can begin. Occasionally, you'll spot a deer and fantasize about fresh meat. You load your musket, fire, and miss by a mile. The deer looks at you with contempt and saunters off. You eat another piece of hardtack and wonder what failure tastes like. Hint, it's this, then comes the bear. Just one, big, quiet. Very curious about your supplies, you freeze. It sniffs your flour. You wet yourself slightly. It leaves. You spend the next 3 nights jumping at squirrel sounds and reconsidering every decision that led you here. Chickens, if you brought them, they're gone now. 1 flew off, 1 was eaten, the last one gave up and became emotionally unavailable. Eggs are a memory. Feathers blow through the camp like broken dreams. Horses? Fancy. Fast, expensive, and very good at breaking legs in the exact middle of nowhere. You might trade one for medicine, or a wagon wheel, or because you're hungry and the stew pot's looking lonely. Your dog, if you had one, is the only creature who doesn't hate you. He sticks by your side, licks your hand, growls at danger, until he eats something bad and dies behind a bush. You hold a funeral. You pretend you're not crying. Animal dung litters every trail. You step in it constantly, sometimes barefoot. The smell becomes part of you, woven into your skin, your clothes, your soul. You stop noticing. Others don't. And yet, with all the threats, real and imagined, the worst part is the silence. When the animals are gone. No hoofbeats, no barking, just creaking wheels and coughing humans. You miss the noise, you miss the life, because now it's just you, on foot, alone, pulling your own damn wagon. Let's talk about the people who are already here, the ones who didn't invite you, who didn't ask for your wagons, your diseases, or your manifest destiny. You call them Indians. They call you the reason everything is on fire. At first, it's just rumours. whispers in camp. They're watching us. They stole some oxen. They're going to scalp us in our sleep. No proof, just fear. And fear multiplies faster than lice in a shared blanket. Most encounters are peaceful. A trade, a wave, a quiet nod from a man on horseback. But your wagon mates are on edge. They grip rifles, they tell stories, they forget that native people aren't NPCs in your westward fantasy. They're human. They're home. You meet a family, Shoshone maybe. They offer fish. You offer flour. It's awkward. Nobody smiles. But for a moment, it's okay. And then someone in your group ruins it by asking if they're friendly. As if friendliness is the default response to invasion. Some tribes charge tolls, want payment for crossing sacred land. You grumble, complain. Hand over beads or bullets or whiskey, then you move on. But the resentment simmers, not theirs, yours, because you think you have a right to be here. Your map calls this place unsettled, which is a fun word for actively occupied by people with functioning societies who just didn't write in English. But that doesn't stop your group from acting like pioneers, like heroes, like victims. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes violence happens. A misunderstanding, a stolen cow, a drunken insult. Someone fires a shot. Someone doesn't get back up. Now you're running, or hiding, or digging shallow graves and pretending you're still in control. The retaliation, when it comes, is methodical. A wagon burned, a trail erased, a settler found with arrows in their back and surprise in their teeth. Your party grows quieter after that. More suspicious, more trigger-happy, less human. You pass villages, empty, abandoned, maybe moved, maybe not. You wonder what they looked like before you got here. Before the trail turned everything into a statistic. Before your diseases introduced themselves without shaking hands. You'll hear other settlers brag about shooting savages. As if it's sport. As if the land doesn't belong to them. You say nothing, or maybe you laugh. It's easier than guilt. Guilt needs reflection. You don't have time for that between dysentery and wagon repair. A missionary in your party insists they can convert the natives, teach them decency. You watch him try. You watch him fail. You watch him quietly leave a carved cross on a tree and pretend that's progress. There's a child in one tribe who waves at you. You wave back. It feels wrong, like a peace treaty made from kindling. But for 1 second, you remember that not everything is hostility and horror. Just most of it. Later, someone in your party gets sick. A local healer offers herbs. You hesitate, then accept. The sick man recovers. You say thank you. The healer nods. Neither of you mentions the burning church 2 valleys over. And then you keep going. Always west, always convinced that this is your land, that the trail is yours. That history will see you as a pioneer, not a thief with a wagon and a dream. But the land remembers, and so do its people. There's a pattern now, a rhythm. It begins before dawn with someone coughing, a baby crying, or a rooster nobody brought but who somehow exists anyway. You open your eyes to condensation, body aches, and the stiff realization that it's another walking day. Because they're all walking days. You emerge from your blanket like a resurrected corpse, stretch your spine until it makes noise, and step barefoot into damp dirt and your own poor decisions. Someone's already boiling coffee. Someone else is trying to convince their ox not to die. The sun hasn't risen, but your blood pressure has. Breakfast is fast, dry bread, last night's beans, coffee that tastes like disappointment and slightly of sock. You eat standing up. You don't taste it. You just absorb it, like a sponge with teeth. Then packing. Everything back in the wagon. Food crates, bedrolls, tools, regret. You fold your tent like it personally wronged you. You lash it all down with fraying rope and increasingly creative profanity. Someone's hat blows away. They let it go. The walk begins. Again. 2 miles an hour. The sound of boots on gravel. Wheels creaking. Someone humming off key. You walk behind the wagon because the front's too dusty. You walk beside it because the back smells like ox fart. There's no winning. You pass trees, bushes, grass, dirt. Slightly different dirt. Rocks that look like other rocks. A snake, maybe. You hallucinate that it's your uncle. You don't blink. The sun rises higher, and with it, the stench of your own humanity. Mid-morning. Water break. A canteen passed around like communion. Someone's foot is bleeding. Someone else stepped in something. Your socks are damp. You don't remember why. You keep walking. Lunch, hardtack and dreams. A piece of jerky if you're lucky. You sit on a log that immediately tries to give you splinters. Someone reads aloud from a Bible or a journal. No one listens. Everyone chews like life is a punishment. The second walk is worse. Always. Blisters bloom. Tempers flare. Children whine. Adults whine louder. You start to hate everyone, including yourself. You want to scream, but there's nowhere to scream except the sky, and the sky doesn't care. Mid-afternoon, a wagon wheel squeaks ominously. Someone throws up. Someone else invents a song about mud. You all hate it. It becomes the anthem of your despair. You'll be humming it in your nightmares. Evening, camp again, fire again, cooking again. You dig a small hole for your bathroom needs and cry into it a little. Someone burns the beans. Someone else burns their hand. You pretend it's funny. It isn't. You eat, you groan, you swat flies. You wonder how many more days this will go on. The answer is always too many. Bedtime is a vague concept. You lay down when it's dark, or when your legs stop functioning, whichever comes first. You lie still, staring at the canvas above you, listening to snores, farts, distant howls, the sound of your soul trying to escape through your ears. And then it starts again. Finally, something to look at. A milestone, not a metaphor. An actual literal chunk of rock in the middle of endless soul-melting prairie. You see it from miles away. Your wagon mates cheer. You squint. It's a rock. Chimney rock, they call it. It juts out of the earth like a stone middle finger, aimed at your optimism. Supposedly, it's a big deal. You were told it would be majestic. It's pointy. You want to be impressed. You are not impressed, but you pretend. You clap weakly. Someone sketches it. Someone else says, "Wow, we're really doing it." No one reminds them they lost 3 oxen and their last jar of lard 2 days ago. Let them have this. You camp nearby. It's windy. The dust gets in everything. Your socks, your mouth, your personality. But it's okay, because the rock is there, watching you, judging you. Later, Independence Rock. It's a blob, a round, lumpy hill of granite with names carved into it by people just as exhausted as you, only with slightly more hope and better handwriting. You add your name, or try to. The knife slips. Your finger bleeds. You smear a crude initial into the stone and call it good. It feels historic. It also feels infected. People treat these rocks like holy sites. They pray, they cry, they picnic. You stare at them like a man who's been promised salvation and handed a brick. You wonder if the rocks were more impressive before your soul turned to leather. There's talk around the fire. Halfway there. We've made it. From here on, it gets easier. These are lies, sweet, delicious lies, seasoned with false hope and sunstroke. Other rocks follow. Devil's Gate, Scott's Bluff. Each one brings a tiny moment of triumph, followed by the crushing weight of, oh God, we're still not done. You stop naming them. You stop caring. The real milestones are internal. First time your toenail falls off. First time you eat spoiled pork and don't even complain. First time you laugh when someone dies because you're out of tears. You start marking time by which party members are still alive. Remember when Margaret had both eyes? Remember when the dog could bark? Remember laughter? Each milestone chips away a little more of your optimism, your innocence, your ability to feel joy in the presence of rocks. Eventually, even the landmarks become background noise. You stop looking up. You stop pointing. You just walk past another giant piece of nature's disinterest and keep going, because no matter how many rocks you see, no matter how many famous formations you stagger past, the only thing you're really watching for is the finish line. And it still isn't here. It starts with a cough, it always does. Someone wheezes, someone else mentions chills. You all pretend it's fine. It's not fine. By nightfall, they're shaking, soaked in sweat, whispering things that don't make sense. By morning, they're gone. You wake up to silence, not the peaceful kind, the kind that comes with a lump under a blanket and a group of people pretending they're not looking at it. Breakfast is skipped, no one's hungry. You dig a hole, shallow, not because you're lazy, because the ground is hard and the shovels are dull. You try to make it deep enough to keep the animals out. You fail. There's a service, someone says a prayer, someone else mutters something about God's plan. No one believes it. You lower the body in, cover it with dirt, mark it with a rock, and then you leave. The worst part? This is normal now. It's not the first, it won't be the last. Death is part of the itinerary. Right between try not to drown and boil some beans. Sometimes they die in their sleep, peaceful maybe. Sometimes they die screaming. Usually, it's somewhere in between. A slow fade, a whimper, a final rattle that haunts your ears for days. Children die, elderly die, the strong die, the annoying survive. It's never fair. You stop trying to make sense of it. You try not to form attachments. You fail. Then you bury your new friend and move on like you just misplaced a boot. There are so many shallow graves now. Some have names, some don't. You pass them like mile markers. Here lies Henry. Here lies someone's mother. Here lies what's left of your emotional resilience. Sometimes you pass graves that have been dug up. Animals, or worse, people. Desperation does things to a person. You try not to think about it. You keep walking. You dream of dying quietly, with dignity, but you know the odds. You'll collapse in a ditch, half eaten by time, and ignored by everyone except a mosquito with boundary issues. If you're lucky, someone will remember your name. If you're really lucky, they'll spell it right on the marker. If you're unlucky, they'll just write another one and move on. You used to be afraid of dying. Now you're afraid of dying slowly, pointlessly, without even a decent view. The trail strips away your fear and replaces it with grim acceptance. Because out here, death isn't a tragedy. It's a Tuesday, and there's always another one coming. After weeks of dust, disease, and internal screaming, you see it, a shape on the horizon that isn't a rock, a tree, or someone slowly dying. A fort, a trading post, civilization, sort of. You hobble toward it like a lost pilgrim, eyes wide, mouth dry, hopes high. It's smaller than you expected, dingier. It smells like smoke, sweat, and the distinct aroma of a man who hasn't changed his shirt since Missouri. There's a fence, there are buildings, there are people. Some are soldiers, some are traders. All of them look like they've seen things. You walk in cautiously, like someone entering a sketchy tavern that might also be a trap. Inside the fort there are supplies, kind of. Hardtack, mouldy. Beans, suspicious. Ammunition, overpriced. Soap, mythical. Everything costs more than it should, because out here, desperation inflates the market. You try to trade. You offer your last blanket for a sack of flour. They laugh. You offer your boots. They consider it. You offer your soul. They say it's too worn out. The store is run by a man with wild eyes and a cough you can hear from across the courtyard. He tells you the flour's fresh. You don't believe him, but you buy it anyway, because the alternative is boiling your own shoes. Outside, a blacksmith sharpens tools with the energy of someone who's forgotten what day it is. You ask for a wagon repair. He gestures vaguely at a pile of wood and tells you to believe in yourself. There's a doctor, of sorts. He has a beard, a jug of whiskey, and a terrifying number of knives. You ask about your fever. He recommends rest and repentance, and then charges you for both. The fort is full of other travellers, some worse off than you. One man is missing a leg. Another lost his oxen and replaced them with children. You nod at each other in mutual recognition of shared trauma. You sit near the fire that night, surrounded by strangers and stale air. It should feel like safety. It doesn't. It feels like a bus stop where no one knows if the bus is still running, or if there ever was one. News travels slowly here. You hear rumours of storms ahead, bandits, gold, death. You pretend to listen, but your brain is already bargaining with the road. Maybe it won't be so bad from here on. You rest. You eat slightly less mouldy bread. You patch your wounds with twine and optimism. You think, maybe we'll make it. You won't. But it's nice to think so. And then you leave, back onto the trail, into the unknown. The fort disappears behind you like a weird fever dream, with bad customer service. But for a brief, fleeting moment, it was almost enough. You did it. Somehow. You've arrived, Oregon, the land of promise, the shining western horizon, the place where dreams go to put on pants and start farming. You roll into the Willamette Valley like a soldier who forgot what victory feels like. You have one working wheel, half a sack of flour, and the 1,000-yard stare of someone who's seen too many rivers and too few outhouses. The grass is green, the air is clean, the sky is blue, and none of it feels real. You keep expecting to wake up in a ditch with a mouthful of dirt and a raccoon trying to steal your last sock. Your party has changed. Fewer people, more silence. Even the survivors are different now. Thinner, quieter, faces carved by wind and regret. You all look like extras from a post-apocalyptic musical. You meet other settlers. They welcome you, politely, awkwardly, like they're not sure if you're there to farm or just haunt their property. You try to smile. Your lips crack. You bleed a little. You stop smiling. You look at your new land. It's fertile, they say. Ready for planting, they say. You see trees, mud, and something that might be a bear. You wonder how much wheat you can grow before you starve. You build a shelter. Badly. You cut down trees, slowly. You dig a hole and call it a root cellar. Your hands bleed. Your back screams. You begin to miss the trail. Not because it was better, but because at least it had momentum. Your clothes are rags. Your boots are memories. Your skin is sunburned in places you didn't know could sunburn. You keep moving. Not because you want to, but because you forgot how to stop. Winter approaches. You panic. You stack firewood. You panic more. You kill a chicken. You cry about it. Then you eat it. And cry again. Someone mentions starting a school. Someone else wants a church. You just want a bed that isn't made of regret and pine needles. You write a letter home. Or try to. Your hands shake. You can't find the words. You settle for made it. Alive. Mostly. Then you burn it. Because there's no post office. And the wind already knows your secrets. You try to sleep. The silence feels wrong. Too quiet. You miss the wagon wheels, the coughs, even the cholera in a weird way. Now there's only wind and it whispers, you did this to yourself. And yet somehow, you're proud. Not happy, not comfortable, but proud. You endured, you bled, you buried your dreams and kept walking. And now you're here, haunted, exhausted, alive, sort of. You started this journey with hope, with fire in your heart and stars in your eyes. Now you've got scabs on your elbows and a haunted stare that makes children cry. Welcome to the American dream. They told you the West was freedom, opportunity, destiny. They forgot to mention dysentery, wagon wrecks, and the fact that your teeth would fall out from scurvy before you ever saw a single mountain. They called it manifest destiny, a phrase so cheerful it practically whistles. In reality, it was a meat grinder with nice branding, and you marched straight into it with a song in your heart and flour in your bag. You left behind a world of structure, cities, families, indoor plumbing. You traded it for wilderness, wolves, and a lifelong resentment toward rivers. The Oregon Trail didn't kill you with one blow. It chipped away, day by day, blister by blister. It taught you that suffering can be casual, that misery can be boring, that the frontier is mostly dirt and trauma. You were promised a better life. What you got was a crash course in survival and a front row seat to your own unravelling. Congratulations! You are now part of history, the part with footnotes and questionable hygiene. And yet, you weren't alone. Thousands made the journey. Some made it west, fewer made it whole. But all of them, all of you, carried something remarkable. The absolute, irrational refusal to quit. You kept walking, through heat, through cold, through every trail disease short of spontaneous combustion, because something in you refused to stop, even when everything else did. The Oregon Trail didn't just test your body, it tested your will, your sanity, your ability to dig a latrine in under 4 minutes. And in the end, whether you made it or not, it changed you. So now, as you lie in bed, hopefully under warm blankets, and not a piece of canvas flapping in the wind, take a breath. Be glad you're here. In a world with roads, toilets, soap. Because the trail didn't kill you, but it wanted to. Very badly. Sleep well. Dream of flat ground, clean socks, and a world where no one ever says, "Let's ford the river." Good night, pioneer.